everyone to imaginativevisions.com movie talk. I know it's been a minute since I did movies, but I'm back to reviewing movies more consistently now that things have lightened up. And today, the first movie I wanted to talk about was one of the most highly anticipated movies for me of the year. I finally got a chance to see it. Let's talk about Michael, starring Jaafar Jackson, who plays his uncle Michael Jackson. As always, I give you a brief synopsis of the film. So let me give you a synopsis of the film right now, my friends. And the synopsis reads such as this. The story of the pop superstar Michael Jackson from his extraordinary early days in the Jackson 5 to the visionary artist whose creative ambitions fuels a relentless pursuit to become the biggest entertainer in the world. And right off the bat, story wise, I'm gonna talk about the story, but first, I'm gonna actually do something different. I want to talk about the acting in this film because standing ovation for the acting and the casting of Jafar Jackson. There hasn't been a performance. There have been many people who have played Michael Jackson, but there's not many people who have become Michael Jackson. And there's a difference between playing the character and becoming the character. And Jafar Jackson, I couldn't tell you. I didn't see Jafar. All I saw was Michael Jackson. Jafar nails this performance to a T. And what makes his performance so great, it's not an imitation. It is literally becoming the character. He has become the essence, the soul of Michael Jackson, from the voice to the physicality to the dance moves. Everything was on point when it came to portraying Michael. Give this kid nominations. I'm saying give him the win. Give this kid nominations. He 100% deserves any nominations that is going to be coming for this upcoming award season. Fantastic job. Oh my gosh. Nia Long as Michael's mother. She not only looks like Katherine Jackson in this film, but she plays her with so much warmth, so much love and care. And before we get to, I will get to the story as well, but she's used very sparingly. But I really like what she brought to Katherine Jackson's character. I say she definitely rivals Angela Bassett's performance in The Jacksons, The American Dream, which I will do a little bit of comparison because that's going to go towards the story. And of course, Coleman Domingo as Joe Jackson was excellent. He gave a hell of a performance as Joe, just villainous, just from the aesthetics, the physicality. He became that embodiment, a pure antagonist to Michael. And then, of course, we had Miles Teller. I said Terror. Teller as John Branca, and does an amazing job as Michael's manager. I mean, the cast all around, my friends. It's too much great performances for me to name everybody, but the entire cast gets a standing ovation for this. But let's talk about the story here. Now, as the synopsis says, we get to start off with, and this is not going to be a recap of the story, like a play by play, because one, it's a biopic, so there won't be any real spoilers because the man was here, the man was alive. So I'm not don't be that person like this is a spoiler. The man was alive. The majority of us know the story of Michael Jackson. Anyway, so it starts off with Michael being in the Jackson 5. We get to see them getting discovered to Motown. It goes from his beginnings of the Jackson 5 to the beginning of the bad era. And from a story standpoint, I hate to say this, it could have been better. There was, and I know they had a lot of production issues. There was stuff that was cut out due to legal reasons. But I will have to say the story could have been fleshed out a little bit better. The characterization of certain characters were very one note, especially Joe Jackson. And that's actually the main problem I actually had with the film was the characterization of Joe Jackson and even Michael too. And that doesn't mean, like I said, the acting is great, but the characterization of Joe was a very one note villain. And what I mean by that is that Joe was mainly concerned with success, and getting his family out of Gary and Anna. But he had this stranglehold on the family. And yes, documentation shows that this was Joe Jackson who he was. But and I hate to do a comparison, but if you watch the miniseries of Jackson's The American Dream and Lawrence Hilton Jacobs' performance as Joe Jackson, he has in the characterization of Joe Jackson, there are some redeeming qualities there. There actually you see genuine care and concern for what he has for his sons. One of the moments I could just think of right off the bat is when Jackie's getting into a fight and Joe was like, "Yo, we want to do this. We're gonna do this properly." And they box it out. You know, Jackie beats up the bully, and Joe's proud of him. Like you don't have those moments of Joe in this film at all. Joe is just a complete tyrant. He has no compassion, and only like there's even a scene in here where Michael has the Pepsi commercial accident, and at the hospital, Joe's just going, "Yo, is he gonna be able to perform again?" But if you go to the American Dream version, this actual concern where a reporter asks, "Hey, is he gonna be able to perform?" And Michael and Joe's just like, "Yo, that's my son in there." Like he's actually concerned. And the characterization of Michael, as much as I love the performances, like I said, the performances, the music, everything's on point. But we're talking about the characterization story right now. Michael is depicted as this all God perfect, not saying he was perfect, but he's this being like that was just destined to be great. And yeah, he was. But Michael also had flaws. Michael's also a perfectionist. Michael can also be a cutthroat business person. Like it's like we saw when he brought the catalog of the Beatles. Like he was cutthroat. And we don't see those sides of him. We only see the trauma and the psychological issues that he had due to Joseph's abuse. We don't get to see the other side of Michael Jackson. We don't see more layers than the surface level for what was safe to depict of Michael Jackson. There's also kind of issues here. You're doing the Jackson family, but there was no Janet. There was no Rebe. The only sister was Latoya. And even the Jackson Five, they don't even get enough characterization. Yes, folks, I know the movie's about Mike, but those people are a huge part of Michael's life. Huge part role of who Michael is and why he became who he is. It would have been nice to get a little bit more characterization here. That being said, with those type of flaws, it still is one hell of a film. Believe it or not, I had a really good time with this, and the film actually does feel like it's going through the motions of greatest hits, meaning like we have to touch certain key moments, like the creation of Thriller, the creation of Beat It, meeting Quincy Jones, but they don't have even Diana Ross. They don't even show the Wiz and of how he met Quincy Jones. So, like I said, there's a lot missing in here that probably was on the cutting room floor. I'm hoping that we get that 4 hours director's cut because I think that will flesh out a lot of the characterization, a lot of the story here. But I will have to say, from the production value, let's talk about that. It is amazing. Just the recreation of some of Michael's greatest moments from Motown 25 to the Thriller music video, how he got the Bloods and Crips together for Beat It, which is a well known tale about how Michael was watching the news and he was seeing what was happening in our community and he wanted to kind of employ the Bloods and Crips in hopes of them to stopping the violence. And for a time, it did. You know, they hit on a lot of elements. They touched a little bit on his vitiligo with the skin, They started to show how, I guess, the beginning of the addiction to painkillers came about after he burnt his hair. So they touching on a little bit, but it doesn't do a deep dive on the psychology of Michael Jackson. It does a very safe surface level depiction, story wise, character wise, on Michael, and that's a shame. I honestly think the American Dream did a better job of depicting the Jackson family because it was a lot more balanced. Yes, Joseph was complete terror, but you also seen moments of some redemption of where he actually cares for his family. You saw more conflict between him and Catherine. And Nia Long, as great as she is in this, she's just really stuck to being that supportive mother who didn't really stood up for the kids when in actuality she did stand up to Joseph in a couple of moments in the existence of the Jacksons. So not I don't want to make this too long, but I would to say also direction was absolutely amazing. Like I said, just the use of being able to get down certain key moments to a T. That it even goes to the point where it's not a reenactment, but it's just like a full blown remake that does it beat by beat, step by step, word by word. I thought that was just an absolute blast. I thought that was just an amazing thing to do. So with that being said, my friends, I'm gonna wrap this up and let us get our popcorn meter here, and we are going to bring it up to give Michael a rating here. So as you can see from the popcorn meter, we have overflowing bucket, we have full bucket, half bucket, a few kernels in an empty bucket. I'm going to give Michael a full bucket. This is a strong, satisfying watch with plenty to enjoy. But I will have to say I was going to give it a half bucket because there are a lot of uneven parts here. But I will say, as a huge Michael fan, that brought it up to a full bucket. There are some stuff in here that I wish they would have touched on. I know everybody wants to talk about the scandal, the scandal, the scandal, the scandal, the scandal. That should have been in there. It was in there. Look it up. That they had to cut it out due to legal reasons. But I wish they would have touched on him buying the Beatles catalog. That's how he really got his wealth. I wish they would have touched on a little bit more of his relationship with Quincy Jones because we know after that, they kind of had a falling out or they split and Michael wanted to do his own thing. I wish they had more characterization on a better characterization, less one note, more complex on Joe Jackson. So it is a full bucket. Let's see. Hopefully, it gets a sequel and it could kind of flush out, or we get to see the scenes that were deleted and we get like a director's cut of Michael. Hopefully, we'll probably get that, like at least a 3 hour and 30 minute or 4 hour cut of Michael. And that's all I'm gonna say. This is Justin from MasterDivisions.com for Movie Talk. If you like what we do here, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'll catch you on the next one. Michael gets a full bucket. Later days.